How is everyone today? Stop right here. I am Micah Murphy. I want to teach you about how to communicate better. This is Communication Skills with Micah Murphy, episode 3. And today's title is Learning. Um, a lot of people don't realize that one of the first kind of foundational steps of communication is learning how to communicate properly. But the thing about it is that everyone is different. So learning, you have to learn who that person is before you can communicate with them properly. So you never expect to just, you know, meet someone and all of a sudden you're just bam. You have to learn who they are because that person's not going to communicate exactly like the other person you just talked to. Or maybe you have a lot of friends you've known for a while and you meet someone new and they communicate totally different. So you have to take it slow. My slogan for communication is less is more, especially in the beginning stages of a relationship, of any type of relationship. But you can apply this in your marriages and in your co-worker relationships, or your family relationships, friendships. Learn who the other person is. Learn how they communicate. Learn some people take certain things offensively and other people don't take the same thing offensively. And some people take things that some people don't take offensively. And so you got to learn how to communicate, because if you want to be effective when you communicate, you can't be someone who's causing offense to someone all the time. Now, it is each individual's, choice and responsibility to not stay offended and to forgive, but you don't want to just come across rude and somebody who is just prideful and this and that and just offend somebody. So you have to take the time to sit back and learn who that person is. I'm speaking from a wealth of knowledge from years and years of customer service type of work and ministry and different things that I've done, and learning who people are and how they talk is so key, because then you can give them the type of communication that they understand. And understanding each other when you communicate is so important, because some people can say one word and it means something different. Another person says another word and it means something different. And these are all topics that I'm going to get into in further episodes of Communication Skills with Micah Murphy. But today you got to learn what that person, how they communicate. What does that word mean to that person? And how do you learn? You have to ask questions. You can't just chalk it up to, just intuition all the time. Even though some people have good intuition and they get it, you still have to learn. You still have to ask questions. Assuming things is one of the worst things you can do in communication. To assume somebody thinks something or feels something when they don't. You gotta learn, and the only way to learn is ask, talk about it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you might have to be the first one to initiate this. I mean, you're here, you're listening to this video, so you're obviously wanting to learn how to communicate better. So be the first person, take the first step, and ask, learn, start learning who the person is. You may be in a marriage you've been in for 30 years and you feel like you've always had some type of block when it comes to communication, and you get along better with people maybe at work or this and that. Start learning who your spouse is, or apply this to any relationship. Start learning, sit back, less is more, ask questions, don't assume. I'm going to get into a lot of this stuff, but right now, focus on the fact that you need to learn who that person is so that you can communicate with them properly. You need how doing that, you need to ask them questions, and you're going to learn who you are, and how you communicate through learning who people are and trial and error and seeing what works with certain people and what doesn't work. And you're going to also learn a lot about yourself and how you communicate. And then as you learn about yourself, the learning applies to yourself and to the person. You're going to learn how to communicate more effectively, because you're going to learn through trial and error, uh, you know, does this way of communication come across more effectively? Does this way come across more effectively? And it is going to be different with different people, but you're going to learn your own baseline of how you communicate by observing others. So just remember, when you go into a conversation, don't go in there like we said. The first episode was listening. You always want to listen first. Listen, listen. Now it's learn as you're listening. Learn who that person is so that you'll know how to communicate with them better. And in doing that, you will learn how you communicate better. You'll learn what works and what doesn't work. Of course, there will be, you know, it's not 100% all the time. There will be exceptions, different people, and you'll have to change it up a little bit, but you'll learn in this process of how to communicate yourself better. And less is always more. And then there's times you get relationships where, there's that special someone in a friendship or whatever, or a couple that you can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. But usually, and I never like to use the words always, never, all the time, everything, but usually it takes a while to get to that point, to where people just know you through and through and all this. So, as you're listening, learn who the person is, and you're going to learn who you are in the process. You're going to learn how to communicate with them. You got to remember, each person is a unique individual. They don't communicate the same way. Some people do have similar ways, but they're always a little bit different, and some people are drastically different, and then you're different. So you have to learn how to communicate properly, and you have to learn how they communicate so you can communicate to them properly. And so when they're talking to you, you know what they're actually saying. Because if you don't, say someone's kind of like, if you ever heard the term, they speak a different language than me, even though you might both be speaking English or whatever the language is, but it's just, you speak a different language. If you learn, through asking, how do you learn? You learn through research. How do you research with a human being? You research by observing, by asking. These are all parts of learning. And you got to learn how they take things, what this means to them. And then you want to make sure that they know what this means to you when you start saying something. So it's just very important, because miscommunication has destroyed so many marriages and so many relationships. I mean, I just know it has. And where a lot of times the person just didn't understand how you communicated, and they took it wrong, and they assumed it, and it festered, and they never fleshed it out and got it out. Instead of assuming that their partner or their friend or their boss or whoever meant this, they just assumed it meant this. And they took it the wrong way, and eventually, you know, the relationship fell apart. When instead of assuming, they could have asked, and they could have learned what do they really mean. And some people are kind of scared to get that close to people and really ask and engage, but usually people are being inquisitive isn't, I don't see it as bad. I mean, you need to find a balance. That's another part of learning. You'll learn that over time. The balance of when do you get really deep into the asking and all that stuff, but that all comes in time. But just learn who the people are around you. Instead of trying to drive in your agenda, what you always want to talk about, listen to them, learn who they are, learn who you are, and begin communicating more effectively so that really your relationships work better. So I'm going to end episode 3 with that, but there's so much to get into. Click subscribe, comment if you have some questions, hit like if you like what you're hearing. But stay tuned, because there is so much about communication. I can just keep going on and on. I want to keep these videos at around 8 to 12 minutes max. So thank you. This is Micah Murphy again. Y'all have a wonderful day. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you soon.